Ambassador Elias Carter stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, his expression calm but firm. The chamber stretched high above him, its crystalline walls shimmering under artificial light. Delegates from 100 alien species sat in towering seats, watching him with cold, unblinking eyes. He had come here for peace. Humanity had fought long and hard to earn a seat at the council, proving themselves in trade, diplomacy, and even warfare. But despite all their efforts, there was resistance, fear. The council viewed Earth as unpredictable, as something that did not belong in their centuries-old hierarchy. Carter took a deep breath and spoke. His voice was steady, resonating through the hall. We do not seek conflict. We do not seek control. We seek cooperation. Humanity is willing to work alongside all of you, to build a future that benefits every species in this galaxy. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some of the alien representatives looked at one another, uncertain. Others scoffed. Then, Supreme Chancellor Varel of the Auxiliary stood. His black, armor-plated body gleamed under the lights, his red eyes filled with contempt. Humanity speaks of cooperation, yet all we see is expansion. You spread across the stars like a disease, consuming resources, challenging old powers. You claim peace, but your presence alone destabilizes order. Carter clenched his jaw. That is not true. You have already been judged, Varel interrupted, his voice a deep, guttural growl. Humanity is guilty of galactic destabilization, and for that crime, there is only one sentence. Silence fell over the chamber. The meaning was clear. Carter stiffened. This is madness. There was no trial, no discussion. There is no need, Varel sneered. The council has spoken. Carter turned, scanning the faces before him. Some delegates looked away, unwilling to meet his gaze. Others, especially those from the dominant species of the council, watched with cruel satisfaction. And then the guard stepped forward. The ambassador felt his heart pound. This was not how it was supposed to go. This was supposed to be a meeting of diplomacy, not an execution. Humanity will not stand for this, Carter warned, as the guards seized him, their clawed hands tightening around his arms. Varel's lip curled. They will have no choice. The guards dragged him to the center of the chamber, where an ancient ceremonial platform awaited. A circular device embedded in the floor hummed to life, glowing with a dark red light. It was an ancient method of execution, one reserved for the worst criminals in galactic history. Carter struggled, but the guards forced him onto his knees. The energy field wrapped around his body, locking him in place. A voice boomed across the chamber. The punishment is set. Let all who defy the council witness the price of defiance. The platform activated. Blinding flames erupted from the floor, engulfing Carter in an instant. He did not scream. The fire consumed him, yet his gaze remained locked on Varel, his face contorted in pain, but filled with defiance. The ambassador's last moments were broadcast across the entire galactic network. Every world, every station, every colony watched in horror as a human was burned alive by the very council that claimed to stand for justice. And then he was gone. The flames faded, leaving nothing but scorched metal and silence. Chancellor Varel turned to face the recording devices floating in the chamber. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the will of the Galactic Council. The broadcast ended. On Earth, the reaction was immediate. The moment the transmission finished, the United Earth Federation's command center fell into stunned silence. The president, military leaders, and diplomats sat frozen, staring at the screen where Carter had just been murdered. A slow, seething rage filled the room. Admiral Victor Grayson, the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Fleet, stood first. His voice was ice-cold. They think this will break us. No one responded. He turned, his expression unreadable. They think we will kneel. A murmur spread through the room, voices rising in anger. Grayson's fist slammed onto the table. They are wrong. The president stood, her face pale but determined. Prepare the fleet. A silence fell again, but this time it was different. This was not the silence of shock. It was the silence before war. The Council believed they had crushed humanity's spirit, but they had only ignited the fire. Earth had never been so united. The moment the broadcast ended, riots erupted across human colonies. Crowds gathered in front of government buildings, demanding justice. Military recruitment centers saw an overwhelming surge of volunteers. The United Earth Federation had no choice but to act. In the underground war chambers beneath Geneva, the leaders of Earth's most powerful nations and spacefaring forces gathered. A massive holographic display hovered above the central table, showing the positions of all known Galactic Council fleets, stations, and planets. Admiral Victor Grayson stood at the head of the table, his hands pressed against the surface. His face was stone cold, his eyes filled with restrained fury. They burned our diplomat alive. In front of the entire galaxy, he said, his voice low and controlled. That was not just an execution. That was a declaration of war. President Eleanor Vasquez took a deep breath, looking around the room. Every general, every admiral, every intelligence officer shared the same expression, cold rage. They expect us to kneel, she said. They expect us to beg for forgiveness. Silence. Then Admiral Grayson straightened. We will not beg. A murmur of agreement spread through the room. We have spent decades preparing for something like this, he continued. The Council has always feared us, always sought to control us. They wanted us weak, dependent, but they failed to understand one thing. He turned to face the gathered leaders. Humanity does not forget, and we do not forgive. The room erupted into voices. Plans were made, strategies discussed. Humanity had been underestimated for the last time. Earth's war machine roared to life. The first strike was swift. The Council had assumed that humanity would hesitate, that they would waste time in political debates, but they underestimated just how quickly humans could adapt. The first target was a auxiliary supply depot, located on the edge of neutral space. It was lightly defended, with only a handful of ships stationed nearby. The Council had never expected a full-scale assault. And so, when the human fleet emerged from warp, the defenders barely had time to react. The attack was brutal. Human warships, sleek and angular, tore through the enemy defenses with ruthless efficiency. Railguns fired kinetic rounds at near-light speed, shredding alien hulls like paper. Swarms of autonomous drones darted through the battlefield, overwhelming enemy turrets. Within minutes, the depot was reduced to debris. Humanity had sent its first message. This was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Council had declared humanity an enemy of order. They expected other species to fall in line, to shun Earth and its people. But instead, something unexpected happened. Whispers spread among the independent colonies, among the oppressed worlds forced to live under the Council's iron rule. They saw what humanity was doing. They saw how the humans did not cower in fear, but instead struck back. And some began to wonder, could humanity be the answer? Could they be the ones to finally break the Council's grip on the galaxy? Rebellion simmered beneath the surface, and the Council was too blind to see it. The Galactic Council had ruled with an iron grip for centuries. They had crushed rebellions, silenced dissidents, and erased entire civilizations that defied their rule. To them, humanity was just another species to break. But they had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated what humans were capable of when pushed to the brink. The war machine of Earth roared to life like a sleeping giant awakened from its slumber. Military production facilities across the Sol system worked around the clock, constructing warships, weapons, and automated drones. Factories on Mars and Titan churned out heavy armor, while Earth's shipyards produced a new fleet at an unprecedented speed. The entire human race had one singular goal: vengeance. While humanity prepared, the first phase of retaliation had already begun. Deep within the uncharted sectors of space, a small human task force prepared to strike at the heart of the Council's power. A team of elite operatives, known as the Black Stars, was sent on a mission that could change the course of history. Commander Alex Rains adjusted his breathing as the countdown ticked toward zero. The stealth ship Nightfall drifted silently through the darkness, hidden from the Council's sensors. Their target, the Council's primary communication relay station orbiting the gas giant Prolax 7. If they succeeded, the Council's ability to coordinate fleet movements would be crippled. If they failed, there would be no second chance. 10 seconds, the pilot whispered through the comms. The ship glided toward the station, avoiding the patrol routes of enemy ships. Their advanced cloaking technology kept them hidden, but only for a limited time. "Go," Alex ordered. The airlock hissed open, and the strike team launched themselves into the void. Using thrusters, they maneuvered toward the outer hull of the station. With precise movements, they attached magnetic clamps and activated their cutting tools. Inside the station, alien guards patrolled lazily, completely unaware of the death creeping toward them. The first guard died without a sound. A high-frequency blade slid between its armored plates, severing its spinal column. The second was taken down by a silenced kinetic round to the head. The team moved with deadly precision. Within minutes, they had reached the control center. A auxiliary officer barely had time to react before a bullet ended his life. "Plant the charges," Alex ordered. Explosives were placed along the station's core systems. The countdown began. As the team retreated, alarms blared. Enemy reinforcements poured into the hallways, firing plasma bolts that scorched the walls. "Move," Alex shouted, firing his rifle as they sprinted toward the extraction point. The team barely made it back to the Nightfall before the station erupted into a massive explosion. A fireball consumed the structure, sending debris scattering into space. The mission was a success. The Council's communications were crippled. Meanwhile, humanity's fleets were on the move. The first major assault was aimed at the planet Saltor, a strategic Council stronghold. Defended by a massive fleet, it was considered an impenetrable fortress. But humanity had no intention of fighting a conventional battle. Instead, they unleashed a strategy the Council had never encountered before. They launched decoy fleets in multiple directions, confusing the enemy. As the Council scrambled to reposition their defenses, the real attack began. Massive kinetic bombardments struck the planetary shields, weakening them with relentless force. EMP weapons disabled enemy targeting systems. And then, the human ground forces descended. Trop pods crashed into the enemy strongholds, unleashing soldiers in advanced exosuits. They moved like ghosts, striking fast and hard, overwhelming the Council's forces before they could react. The battle was brutal. But in the end, the Council lost. Zaltor, one of their most important strongholds, had fallen. And with it, the myth of their invincibility was shattered. As news of humanity's victory spread, something unexpected happened. The oppressed species of the galaxy, those who had suffered under the Council's rule, began to rise. Uprisings ignited across the galaxy. Slave worlds revolted. Independent colonies declared their allegiance to Earth. The Council's worst nightmare was becoming a reality. Humanity had started a fire that could not be extinguished, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The fall of Saltor sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. For the first time in centuries, the ruling elite felt something they had never experienced before: fear. They had crushed countless civilizations in the past, but none had retaliated with the sheer ferocity and tactical brilliance of humanity. The Council's military leaders scrambled to respond, sending out emergency distress calls to their allies. Fleets were mobilized. War factories doubled their production. But it was already too late. The war had changed. Deep in the void of space, the Horizon Spear, Earth's newly commissioned flagship, drifted silently. From the outside, it was just another warship. But inside, it was the heart of humanity's counteroffensive. Admiral Helena Graves stood in the command center, watching holographic projections of enemy movements. The Council's forces were spread too thin, trying to suppress revolts across multiple systems. It was the perfect moment to strike. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Across the galaxy, hidden human fleets activated their jump drives. They emerged from the depths of uncharted space like predators, striking at key Council supply routes, shipyards, and command posts. Planets that had once belonged to the Council now burned in defiance. On the occupied world of Yelvos Prime, a brutal ground war was unfolding. Captain Daniel Hayes led a unit of human Marines through the ruined streets. Smoke choked the air. Alien civilians cowered in fear, unsure if their new conquerors would be any better than the last. Daniel approached an elderly alien woman who clutched a young child in her trembling arms. Her species had served the Council for generations, forced into submission. Now she was watching her world crumble. "We're not here to rule you," Daniel said gently. "We're here to break the ones who do." For the first time, she saw something in a conqueror's eyes that the Council had never shown: compassion. The Council's response was brutal. They unleashed planet-destroying weapons, sacrificing their own territories just to slow humanity's advance. They sent assassination teams after human leaders. They even attempted to use biological warfare. But humanity had prepared for everything, and every atrocity committed by the Council only strengthened Earth's resolve. The human fleets pushed deeper into enemy space, moving toward the heart of the Council itself. The war was no longer just about revenge. It was about rewriting the balance of power in the galaxy, and humanity would accept nothing less than total victory. The Galactic Council was crumbling. Their fleets, once unmatched, were now nothing more than scattered remnants. Their allies, once loyal, had either surrendered or switched sides, and their worlds, once thriving, were burning. But the Council was not finished yet. In the heart of the galaxy, on the Council's capital world of Zereth Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vortak stood in his war chamber, staring at a massive holographic display of the ongoing conflict. His reptilian eyes flickered with desperation as he watched human forces advancing toward the core systems. "This is impossible," he muttered. A Council general, his voice laced with panic, spoke up. "Supreme Chancellor, our fleets are losing ground. The humans, they fight like nothing we've ever seen before. They don't just attack, they outthink us, outmaneuver us." Vortak clenched his fists. "We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled for millennia. We will not be brought down by an upstart species." But the reality was undeniable. Humanity was relentless, and now they were coming straight for him. Aboard the Horizon Spear, Admiral Helena Graves stood at the command console, her gaze fixed on the approaching enemy defenses around Zereth Prime. "The Council will fight to the last," her tactical officer said. "Let them," Helena replied coldly. "We have unfinished business." She turned toward her fleet captains, broadcasting her final orders. "Humanity never asked for this war. We came in peace, and they burned one of our own alive. They sought to make an example of us. Now we make an example of them." A chorus of acknowledgments rang through the comms. The fleet surged forward. On the ground, Captain Daniel Hayes led his Marines through the crumbling streets of Zereth Prime. Resistance was fierce, but the outcome was inevitable. Council soldiers fought desperately, but their morale was shattered. They had always believed themselves invincible, until now. Daniel's team moved through the corridors of the Council's Grand Hall, clearing the way toward the Supreme Chancellor's chamber. Explosions rocked the building as human artillery pounded the city, and then they reached the doors. Inside, Supreme Chancellor Vortak could hear the sounds of battle drawing closer. The mighty Galactic Council, the rulers of the known universe, had been brought to their knees. The doors burst open. A squad of human Marines stepped inside, weapons raised. Vortak stared at them, trembling. You can't do this. We are the Council. Without us, there will be chaos." Daniel stepped forward, lowering his weapon slightly. "The galaxy will find a way. But you're done." The Council's reign had ended, and humanity's new era had just begun. You said Zereth Prime was burning. The once proud capital of the Galactic Council, a world of towering spires and ancient authority, now lay in ruins. Fires raged through the streets, council banners torn and trampled under the boots of advancing human soldiers. Smoke blackened the sky as humanity's vengeance unfolded in full force. Admiral Helena Graves stood on the bridge of the Horizon Spear, watching as the final defenses crumbled. The fleet had neutralized the remaining Council warships, and now the planet itself was under their control. A voice crackled over the comms. Ground forces report success. The Grand Hall is secured. The Supreme Chancellor has been captured. Helena exhaled slowly. The war was nearing its end. Prepare a global transmission, she ordered. It's time for the galaxy to see the truth. Deep beneath the ruins of the Council's chambers, Supreme Chancellor Vortax sat in chains, his once golden robes torn and stained with dirt. Across from him, Captain Daniel Hayes leaned against the cold stone wall, watching the defeated alien with unreadable eyes. You brought this on yourselves, Daniel said finally. Vortax's eyes burned with hatred. You humans, you don't understand what you've done. The Council maintained order. Without us, the galaxy will tear itself apart. Daniel shrugged. Maybe. But at least it won't be ruled by tyrants who murder diplomats in cold blood. The doors to the chamber slid open, and a soldier handed Daniel a datapad. The Admiral is ready, the Marine said. Daniel nodded and turned back to Vortax. It's time. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. Every major world, every colony, every outpost that had once obeyed the Council's rule now received the same broadcast. A live feed showed Supreme Chancellor Vortax, shackled, his once commanding presence reduced to a defeated figure before the galaxy. Beside him, Captain Hayes stood tall. Helena's voice carried across the stars. The Galactic Council executed a human diplomat in an act of unprovoked aggression. They sought to make an example of us. Instead, they showed us the true face of their rule. Corrupt, cruel, and afraid of change. She paused. The Council is no more. A stunned silence fell across countless worlds as the transmission continued. Humanity does not seek domination. We do not seek revenge. But we will never again allow a ruling body to dictate our fate. From this moment on, the galaxy is free. Across the stars, former Council worlds erupted into chaos. Some celebrated their newfound freedom. Others feared what was to come. But one thing was certain. The old order was gone, and humanity had ensured it would never return. You said, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. With the Galactic Council shattered and its leaders either dead or imprisoned, the old order had collapsed. Planets that had once bowed to the Council's rule were left scrambling to decide their future. Some sought independence, eager to govern themselves for the first time in centuries. Others begged humanity to take control, fearing chaos in the absence of authority. But humanity had no interest in replacing one empire with another. On board the Horizon Spear, Admiral Helena Graves listened as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Every corner of Council space was in turmoil, and the fragile balance of power was shifting rapidly. She had expected this. Humanity had planned for this. Captain Daniel Hayes entered the bridge, nodding to her. It's spreading fast. The Council's military has collapsed, and several former Council worlds are already forming new governments. Some are calling for a united alliance, but others, he hesitated, are preparing for war. Helena finished for him. Daniel nodded grimly. Some factions see this as a chance to carve out their own dominions. Mercenary groups, warlords, and rogue admirals from the Council's shattered fleet are already staking claims. Helena exhaled, rubbing her temples. We always knew this wouldn't be simple. The Council ruled through fear and control. Without them, everything is uncertain. Daniel leaned against the console. What's the next move? She looked at the massive holographic display before her. Dozens of planets marked as unstable. Fleets repositioning, entire civilizations deciding their fate. Humanity won't rule the galaxy, she said, but we won't let it fall into anarchy, either. We'll build something new. An alliance, not an empire. Daniel smirked. The others won't trust us easily. After what we did, they're terrified. They should be, Helena said simply. But we didn't come this far just to become the new tyrants. We'll offer them a choice, stand with us and rebuild, or let the chaos consume them. If they resist, well, we've already shown what happens when humanity is betrayed. Across the stars, the message was clear. Humanity would not rule. But neither would tyrants. The war was over. Now the real battle for the future of the galaxy had begun. The remnants of the Galactic Council's empire lay in ruins. What had once been an unshakable force, feared and obeyed across the stars, was now nothing more than a fractured memory. Planets that had suffered under its rule were rising, their people reclaiming their futures. But in the void left behind, a dangerous question remained: who would shape what came next? Admiral Helena Graves stood aboard the command deck of the Horizon Spear, staring at the massive holographic map of the galaxy. The chaos had only begun. Across dozens of star systems, former council leaders, rogue admirals, and ambitious warlords were already moving to seize power. Some declared themselves rulers of new empires, while others waged wars to claim resources and territory. Humanity had won the war. But this was something else. Captain Daniel Hayes' approach, his expression unreadable. We're getting transmission requests from dozens of planetary leaders. They want to know humanity's next move. Helena didn't answer right away. She watched the shifting battle lines forming in the void, the flickering signals of distress calls, the whispered alliances taking shape. The galaxy was in freefall, and humanity was at the center of it. Have they made their choice yet? She finally asked. Daniel exhaled. Some want nothing to do with us. Others want our protection. And some are just afraid. She nodded slowly. Good. Fear will keep the worst of them in check, for now. But we don't rule by fear. We need something stronger. Daniel hesitated. And if they don't listen? Helena turned to him, her gaze cold but resolute. Then we remind them why the council fell. Humanity did not claim the throne of the galaxy, but they ensured that no tyrant would take its place. Where the council had ruled with oppression, humanity offered something different. An alliance built on cooperation and strength. Those who wished to stand together were welcomed. Those who sought to repeat the council's mistakes were crushed before they could rise. It was not peace. Not yet. But it was a future, and this time, it was one humanity would not allow to be stolen from them again.